watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, all 41 workers trapped in tunnel in North India's Uttarakhand evacuated safely, ending 17 days of agony. Financial aid of rupees 100,000 announced for rescued workers. India's President, Vice President and Prime Minister laud rescue operations. Prime Minister Modi speaks to rescued workers, says people involved in the mission have set an amazing example of humanity and teamwork. 12 more hostages, including 10 Israelis and 2 foreign nationals, released by Hamas on first day of the extended truce. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says committed to return of all the hostages. And Glenn Maxwell's unbeaten 104 help Australia beat India by 5 wickets. India lead 2-1 in the 5-match series. After almost 17 days of intense efforts by multiple agencies, all 41 workers trapped in Silkyara tunnel in North India's Uttarakhand were evacuated safely on Tuesday. As the rat hole miners came out after clearing 8 to 10 meters of debris, NDRF personnel took over and brought out the workers through the passage and stretchers. Union Minister V.K. Singh and Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami welcomed the workers as the NDRF, that is National Disaster Response Force, brought them out through an escape passage that had been created by inserting steel hewn pipes one after the other through 57 meters of rubble. Uttarakhand Chief Minister thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for putting all efforts to make this operation successful. He also announced a reward of rupees 100,000 for every rescue worker. President of India Draupadi Murmu, Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankar and Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded the Uttarakhand rescue operations. President of India Draupadi Murmu in a social media post said, and I quote, "I feel relieved and happy to learn that all the workers trapped in a tunnel in Uttarakhand have been rescued. Their travails over 17 days as the rescue met with obstacles have been a testament of human endurance. The nation salutes their resilience and remains grateful to them for building critical infrastructure, even at great personal risk, far away from their homes. I congratulate the teams and all experts who have acted with incredible grit and determination to perform one of the most difficult rescue missions in history." India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday said that success of rescue operation to bring out the trapped workers from Silkyara tunnel is making everyone emotional and hailed the courage of the workers as an inspiration to others. He also spoke to the rescue workers over phone and inquired about their well-being. The Prime Minister also congratulated multiple people engaged in rescue operation for their bravery and determination to bring out all the trapped workers safely. It was delayed Diwali celebrations for trapped workers, their families and the entire nation as they celebrated the safe evacuation with joy, crackers and sweets. "17 days of the ordeal was ended yesterday when these 41 trapped workers were rescued. Given the heroics of the rat miners and the rescue mission, the rescue operation has been applauded by President, by the Vice President and the Prime Minister as well. The entire nation waited for their release, who had been trapped since November 12th. And the Indian Council of Cultural Relations is taking unique initiative to host 85 foreign academicians under Knowledge India program. For the first time, 85 senior academicians from 39 countries, largely head of departments teaching subjects of Indian knowledge system, will be visiting New Delhi early December. This unique initiative is named as Knowledge India Visitors Program. This event aims at discussing ways and means of promoting higher learning of Indian knowledge system and the issues faced in its teaching learning globally.
We decided to organize this first of its kind Knowledge India Visitors Program. It's a conference and some 85 plus foreign academics, largely heads of departments from 39 countries are going to come to India. The Indic knowledge has reached to several countries, and today there are many universities that are hosting departments that are imparting Indic knowledge system related subjects. Now many of these departments are facing some challenges pertaining to adequate academic resources. Some kind of a solution is also kind of found out to these challenges.
In an exclusive conversation with DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya, the Director General of Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, Amit Prothi, shared his expectations from COP28 in Dubai. You can watch the entire interview at 8:30 p.m. IST or 1500 GMT on 29th November.
COP28 is here.
Yeah.
What is your biggest expectation from it?
I think we've made, this adaptation finance space is growing. And my expectation is that even this year now, there'll be a lot more discussion on how do you direct more financing towards adaptation solutions. Now that requires a better understanding of adaptation solutions. So a lot of discussions are around that, what is an adaptation solution? It's, somehow on the mitigation side, it's easy is not the word, but it's easier to understand what you're doing because it's all related to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. On the adaptation side, it's a little bit more challenging. How do you define an adaptation project? Is still being, now there's evidence building. So I'm hoping a lot more solutions in the adaptation space, a lot more financing. So moving that needle from 5% of climate finance to maybe much more.
The 54th edition of the International Film Festival of India concluded in the Indian coastal state of Goa. At the closing ceremony, the best awards in several categories, including the prestigious Golden Peacock Award, was announced.
The 54th edition of International Film Festival of India concluded today. India's Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Anurag Singh Thakur, said that the 54th edition of International Film Festival of India was a celebration of unity and diversity, embodying the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future, bringing together creative minds, filmmakers, cinema lovers and cultural enthusiasts from across the globe.
The diversity showcased at the festival is the living embodiment of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future, that brought together creative thinkers, filmmakers, cinema lovers and cultural enthusiasts from all over the world under one roof.
The closing ceremony was held at Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Indoor Stadium. It was also addressed by the Chief Minister of Goa.
This year's festival showcased the 270 films from 78 countries, and we saw some of the spectacular premieres. As we bid farewell to this vibrant festival, I am overwhelmed by this response it is received.
Hollywood actor and producer Michael Douglas was honoured with the prestigious Satyajit Ray Lifetime Achievement Award for excellence in cinema. Douglas said that cinema has the power to unite and transform the people with cross-cultural artistic expressions.
This festival is a reminder of the magic of movie making. When you've worked in the movie business for as long as I have, it becomes clear that cinema is one of the few mediums that has the power to unite and transform us. It transcends divisions, whether that be geography, race, language, or even time.
India,
मैं आपसे
बहुत
प्यार
करता हूँ. That's amazing.
The coveted Golden Peacock for Best Film was conferred upon the Persian masterpiece Endless Borders, directed by Abbas Amini. Bulgarian director Stefan Komandarev received the Silver Peacock for Best Director for Bulgar's Lessons. Puriya Rahimi Sam is honoured with Silver Peacock for Best Actor in the male category for his nuanced and rich acting in the movie Endless Borders. Milani Thierry has also been awarded Silver Peacock Award for Best Actor in the female category for her seamless expressions of a wide spectrum of emotions in Party of Fools. Indian filmmaker Rishabh Shetty also bagged the Special Jury Award for Kantara, the film which explores the ideological conflict between humans and nature. Raghir Azad Kaya also received an award for the best debut feature film, where the movie directed was When the Seedlings Grow.
So the 9 days of fiesta, the festivities and everything cinema, everything entertainment comes to an end. We are here at the coastal state of Goa, cherishing all that has happened during the last 9 days. We all look forward to the 55th edition of International Film Festival of India. Shama Mishra, DD India, Goa.
And India's Minister for Women and Child Development and Minority Affairs, Smriti Zubin Irani, launched the Guide on Gender-Inclusive Communication on Tuesday in the national capital. The government aims to make it an integral part of everyday administrative outreach to citizens and also focus on institutionalizing a gender-just administrative framework. Jessica Taneja caught up with the minister on the sidelines of the launch event. Let's listen in.
Firstly, congratulations on this wonderful initiative, a program being brought in for gender-inclusive communication. What was the aim behind it? And as your colleagues, we heard this was a really comprehensive task involving a lot of stakeholders.
I think that when the Prime Minister speaks of women-led development, he's also insistent on ensuring that the language of power is embellished with empathy and words which pronounce gender justice, especially when administrators engage with citizens at large. We need to be mindful of how language impacts not only local communities but also administrative frameworks. So in collaboration with Labasna, which is a premium training institution for officers across the country, this becomes a guide for many of us to follow. I'm extremely even buoyant about the fact that there are many officers who will come through for mid-career training, and these are the officers who will need that kind of guidance in their everyday usage of language. So this is the first ever in our country, and UN Women makes me believe that this is the first ever initiative done anywhere in the world.
Right. And just one small example before we let you go, one small example where you think it could be more effective beyond, of course, the administrative services, as you say.
I think that when you have leadership which is administrative in nature, they also help percolate not only policies, not only budgets, but also how communities view women. So my belief is that if you look at the 15th Finance Commission and how gender-based tied funds were percolated across our systems, how does administrative response also reflect the same vision of the Prime Minister, I think has become the cornerstone for this particular guide.
Thank you for speaking to DD India. That was the Union Minister for Women and Child Development and Minority Affairs, Smriti Irani, launching this guide on gender-inclusive communications today here in New Delhi. This is Jessica Taneja with the journalist Ajit for DD India in New Delhi.
Let's take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India now. Indian Minister of State for External Affairs, Meenakshi Lekhi, addressed the event on 75 years and beyond, celebrating diplomatic relations between India and Hungary. The event was organized by the Hungarian Institute of Strategic Studies in collaboration with Indian Embassy in Hungary. She shared country's vision of Amrit Kaal and a bright future for India-Hungary relations. The second phase of the Kashi Tamil Sangamam program will be held from 17th to 30th of next month. In this regard, the registration portal was launched by Indian Institute of Technology Madras. The program aims to take forward the objective of reviving the living bond between Varanasi and Tamil Nadu by facilitating people-to-people connect across different walks of life. In a significant step towards improving agricultural practices, an Indian government-owned company, Brahmaputra Valley Fertilizer Corporation Limited, conducted a demonstration of drone technology for spraying fertilizer and insecticides on cropping fields under the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra in the Dhalai district of northeastern state of Tripura. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live, the next World Fair Expo 2030 will be hosted by Saudi Arabia in Riyadh after winning maximum votes. Amid forecast of heavy rainfall, we tell you how the natural weather phenomenon of El Nino led to catastrophic floods in Kenya, causing severe devastation. We'll also show you how the Paris City Hall's Christmas illuminations pay tribute to the colors and symbols of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games.
Number one.
Build the brand of the organization so it's well known around the world.
What is your challenge number one?
Capacity.
Where do you see world infrastructure in 2030?
Much better informed with risk, like risk information that is being used a lot more.
And by 2050?
At 2050, most infrastructure that's being built is resident infrastructure.
What is the first task cut out for you now?
COP 28.
What is your priority number one?
Build the brand of the organization so it's well known around the world.
What is your challenge number one?
Capacity.
Where do you see world infrastructure in 2030?
Much better informed with risk, like risk information that is being used a lot more.
And by 2050?
At 2050, most infrastructure that's being built is resident infrastructure.
What is the first task cut out for you now?
COP 28.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Let's get to more international updates. An update on Israel-Hamas conflict now. 12 more hostages, including 10 Israelis and 2 foreign nationals, were released by Hamas on the first day of extended truce on Tuesday. The International Committee of the Red Cross said the 12 hostages had been transferred from Gaza, and Israel's military confirmed that the 10 Israeli citizens and 2 foreign nationals were with its special forces on Israeli territory. A total of 81 hostages held in Gaza have now been released during the truce between Israel and Hamas. 61 of them are Israelis, and all of them are women and children. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday has reiterated that Israel will push for the release of all hostages held in Gaza without exception. The Israeli Prime Minister's office stated that the list of hostages is currently being reviewed and notices are being delivered at this time to the families of those set to be released after more than 50 days of being held hostage in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to visit the Middle East, focusing on securing a lasting ceasefire and the release of all Hamas-led hostages. Also, this marks his third trip to the nation since the October 7th attack. Let's take a look at DD India correspondent Nick Harper's report from Washington.
The US's top diplomat is returning to the Middle East for more talks on the conflict in Gaza. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will visit Israel, the West Bank and the United Arab Emirates during the course of this week. The US State Department says he'll head there after wrapping up a visit to North Macedonia. The Biden administration is aiming to push for more humanitarian aid to enter Gaza and to secure the release of all the remaining hostages that were kidnapped by Hamas during the attack on October the 7th. But Washington is also pressing for another extension to the Israel-Hamas ceasefire beyond the two-day truce extension, even for a permanent end to the fighting. Part of Blinken's aim is to discuss a long-term solution to the crisis and trying to engage Israel on what happens next, including the long-talked-about creation of an independent Palestinian state through the two-state solution. The Biden administration has already ruled out long-term Israeli occupation of Gaza, instead calling for a permanent political solution to the long-standing conflict. Blinken's visit comes after CIA Director William Burns held meetings in Qatar on Tuesday. He met with his Israeli and Egyptian counterparts, including the director of Israel's intelligence service, Mossad. Burns has become a main player in the Biden administration's efforts to get all the hostages released. As the former ambassador to Jordan, the CIA director has experience working in the Middle East and building trust with leaders in the region. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
A report tabled in the UN General Assembly has called on Israel to adhere to all the UN resolutions. The Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People reports to the Assembly annually, and in its 2023 report, it recommended the resumption of meaningful multilateral negotiations for peace between Israel and Palestine. DD India correspondent Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations ahead of the Security Council meeting on the Middle East conflict.
The report was tabled in the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday and calls for the resumption of meaningful multilateral negotiations for peace. It also calls on Israel to halt and reverse its ongoing annexation, home demolitions, settlement expansions and the forced displacement of Palestinians. According to the report, it also called on Israel to adhere to UN resolutions and international humanitarian law. The Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People was established in 1975 and reports to the UN General Assembly annually. Several member states used the opportunity to once again condemn the violence in the Middle East and have called on Israel to end the bombardment and violence in Gaza. The President of the General Assembly, in his address, said that the Assembly had agreed in 1947 to collectively address the issue of Israel and Palestine, and has urged member states to uphold its responsibility to support the two sides to peacefully resolve this conflict. Israel has condemned the release of the committee's recommendations, claiming it's one-sided, disproportionate, detached and biased, while the Palestinian Special Observer here at the United Nations told the packed General Assembly that member states cannot and shouldn't allow the fighting to resume after this fragile ceasefire, which has claimed the lives of innocent civilians. On Wednesday, the United Nations will observe the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, while the UN Security Council will discuss the Middle East matter. The meeting is set to be chaired by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations, reporting for DD India.
India showed its solidarity with the people of Palestine at the United Nations ahead of International Day of Solidarity. During the UNGA meeting, permanent representative of India to the UN, Ruchira Kamboj, said that India welcomes the humanitarian pauses that will ensure the timely and continuous delivery of humanitarian aid.
The humanitarian pauses is a welcome step to ensure timely and continuous delivery of humanitarian aid. We, on our part, have sent 70 tons of humanitarian goods, including 16.5 tons of medicines and medical supplies. There can be no justification for terrorism and hostage-taking. We also call for the immediate and unconditional release of the remaining hostages.
Further in her address, Kamboj also said that India has always supported a negotiated two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine issue.
India has always supported a negotiated two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine issue, leading to the establishment of a sovereign, independent and viable state of Palestine, living within secure and recognized borders, side by side in peace with Israel. India, on its part, Mr. President, will continue to support the Palestinian people through our bilateral development partnership, which covers a wide range of sectors, including health, education, women's empowerment, entrepreneurship and information technology, and will also continue to send humanitarian assistance to the people of Palestine.
Foreign ministers from the NATO alliance have reiterated their support for Ukraine at a meeting in Brussels. Now, this comes as domestic political challenges have hampered the support from the United States and the European Union. Let's take a look at DD India correspondent Alex Cadier's report from Brussels.
The big question coming into this meeting was whether or not Ukraine fatigue was setting in among NATO allies, and if the alliance's support might be weakening. The response from some of NATO's key allies was clear. They will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. The alliance's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg still found it necessary to urge NATO allies to stay the course in their support for Kyiv. Despite Republicans in the United States blocking more aid for Ukraine and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban doing the same in Europe, Stoltenberg highlighted recent new and substantial pledges of support for Ukraine.
We have seen major new announcements just in recent days. Germany pledged 8 billion euros for next year, and the Netherlands pledged over 2 billion euros. Romania has opened an F-16 training center for Ukrainian pilots. Allies, including the US and Finland, are sending more air defense and ammunition. And 20 allies have established an air defense coalition for Ukraine. All of this helps to save Ukrainian lives and sends a message to Russia that our support will not falter.
Beyond Ukraine, the ministers also discussed the situation in the Western Balkans and the bloc's relationship with China, defining issues for the future of NATO. And as has been the case for the past year and a half, the Allies also awaited movement on Sweden's application to join the alliance. An application still being blocked by Turkey and Hungary, despite Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg saying the time has come to approve it. Despite frustrations and some disunity over Swedish membership, NATO allies have so far been focused on showing a united front, united in their long-term support for Ukraine. Alex Cadier at NATO headquarters in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
Paris City Hall's Christmas illuminations paying tribute to the colours and symbols of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, which kick off in 8 months' time, were unveiled. The reveal took place in the Christmas village in front of Paris City Hall. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo, International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach, International Paralympic Committee President Andrew Parsons, and Paris 2024 Organising Committee President Tony Estanguet were present on the occasion. The new look that the City Hall will be in place until the end of Paris 2024 Games on September 8th next year. Saudi Arabia will host the Expo 2030 World Fair in Riyadh. The vote results from 182 members of the Bureau International des Expositions showed. South Korea's Busan and Italy's Rome were also in the running to host the World Fair, a 5-yearly event. Riyadh 119 votes, Busan 29 and Rome 17. Results from 182 members of the Paris-based Bureau International des Expositions showed. The Saudi capital has proposed to host the event between October 2030 and March 2031. Death toll due to severe flash floods triggered by natural weather phenomena of El Nino in Kenya jumps to 120. The devastating floods have submerged towns and villages across East Africa, washed away thousands of homes, while farmland has been submerged. In Kenya, at least 90,000 households have been forced to leave their homes. Also in neighboring Somalia, floods have killed at least 96 people and displaced 700,000. The Kenya Meteorological Department forecast mentioned that heavy rainfall will continue until January 2024. All right, on to cricket now. Glenn Maxwell smashed an unbeaten 104 as Australia pulled off a stunning chase of 223 in the third 2020 international against India on Tuesday to stay alive in the series with a 5-wicket win. The swashbuckling batsman struck his 147 balls and completed the win with a 6 and 3/4 from the final 4 balls of the 20th over in northeastern city of Guwahati before he flies back home. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.